Check, check, check. Hey folks. First playing of the day. Savak, how you doing? Indeed a cookie. You should change it to indeed a swamp. It's a weird chord progression I've put on, but let's see how it goes. Gil, how you doing? Right on time. I was actually a few minutes late. I was still kind of pottering around a bit, but we're here, and this is my first playing of the day, and got my green tea. But I'm glad you could be here. Got any questions about bass playing? Pop it down in the chat. The nerdier, the better. But just anything to do with bass gear concepts, techniques, anything like that, gigs, recordings, how to kind of navigate certain things as a bass player. You know, pop it down in the chat. This is what we get to do here on the live streams. So I'm glad you could be here. Indeed, a cookie always needs a cookie. In need a cookie. That's hilarious. I always said indeed a cookie. I put it the other way around. Hey, I like cookies as well. You know, can't always have them all the time. Just too much sugar. You know, but that's how it is. And my go-to is good old chocolate chip cookie. Jonathan Tornqvist. Yeah, 6 strings. This is my Grooveline 6-string bass. My trusted companion here that I've had for many years and has been all over the world with me. And if I had to learn bass from scratch again, how would I do it? That's a good question. That's an interesting one. I've never thought about that one. I think for me, I would like brush up on the theoretical elements and applications earlier on. And that's something that I could have done, but I didn't because I didn't want to. I just wanted to play, which, you know, is really important. But just as a established musician, I understand how, you know, especially the direction I wanted to go in, right? And if I'm just talking about myself, that's something that's I think maybe I could have benefited from earlier on, and reading music, you know, being able to sight read at a really good level early on. I started playing the bass when I was 7 years old. I didn't start understanding music theory properly until in my teens. So like modes and all that. I just wanted to just play, which was great. I developed a lot of technique and all that. And I was also developing my reading more in my teens, but I think I could have, that's something that doing that earlier, I think might have just benefited me at an earlier age. You know, so, but at the end of the day, everything turned out all right. There's no regrets. And whatever was supposed to happen in my journey in that way was meant for me, and it's going to be different for everybody else, right? And yeah, I'm using Gil. I'm using the tone hammer today. I've been using it the past week. Just kind of nice to break out an old friend. I mean, I've used the tone hammer for many years on a lot of gigs. This thing I've beat this thing up. It's also been around the world with me because it's small. I would take it with me and would just use it if the backline rig wasn't that great, like the amp wasn't that great. If I would show up to a venue and they have a house rig and maybe not a great amp, I would use it with the cabinets. So I always knew that's like, okay, I could at least have something that I'm familiar with and that I know. And so yeah, this thing has done pretty much so many gigs with me. I've also dropped it down like flights of stairs on accident before, and it's still held up. Like it fell out of my gig bag one time. It's went clang, 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 and I was like, ah! And you know, it just got a little bent on one of the, you know, just one of the air intake, but it powered on and it was fine. it was all good. There's a weird change I got going on. I guess because maybe I forgot what chord I had started on. So when I ended the loop and started it, it's just like, whoa, what's going on? I'll probably put together another loop shortly. But I do use the tone hammer, you know, with the upright as well. You know, when I was gigging a lot in LA, this would be my main amp. But I also use a Trickfish Trilobite, which is a 2-channel preamp, and I got one of those when they first launched them, and it's been an essential part of my sound and also just part of my rig. And I think, you know, for me as a doubler, you know, on both electric and upright bass, to me this has been the best AB box that I've come across. And the reason is because some AB boxes that I've come across have been like, yes, they're 2 channels, but one channel gives you limited amount of control. Maybe one channel is like an overdrive channel, right? But with this one, this is 2 of the 2 channels, you know, it has the same thing. So you've got, you know, a set of EQs for each channel and gain and all that. It's really basic and really simple, but it sounds incredible. And from what I understand, you know, because, you know, Trickfish, they make some really great, you know, high-end preamps and amplifiers and all that. And from what I understand, the great bassist Mike Pope, he had a say in developing this thing as well. And for those of you who don't know Mike Pope is an incredible bass player, a ridiculous bassist. I believe he teaches at Berklee College of Music as well, but, you know, played in New York a lot, and he actually, for a period of time, he developed the preamp that was in all the Federa basses from, I think, during like a 20-year period, called the Pope Federa preamp, right? And so that's the thing. He makes some really great. He knows his stuff with the electronics and all that. That's why it sounds so great. So I use that a lot. I'm using it right now because I love the sound of it. I love how clean it is. It has some really good punch. And then going into the preamp of the Aguilar definitely kind of gives it a nice warmth, and so I've got the combination of both preamps going at the same time, which is pretty nice. Plus the preamp on the bass too. Some might think, oh, that's like overkill, or that's, you know, you're over coloring it or overdoing it. Sure, that might be the case, but this is the thing. It's like when you're on that quest for, you know, finding the sound that you're going for, or you do some sort of combination that gives you the tone that actually you're into, you know, do it. I watch all those Premier Guitar rig rundowns, and like, there's all these guitar players who have got all these different amps routing into just to get, you know, the specific tone or whatever. And I'm like, well, you know, with bass, if we need to do that, we can do that. There are times where at the end of the day, I'll just, you know, get a cable and just plug it straight into the amp as well. I'll sometimes do that when it's needed. But in terms of what I do, where, you know, I use the instruments in different ways, as a solo instrument, as an accompanying instrument, playing chords and playing a bass that has extended range and all that, I do like to be able to have the tonal variation to be able to match that, right? And so sometimes, you know, there are things going to be like that, you know? What's going on here? Untold Misery, what's up? How you doing? Hey, it's time to cook. I'm just getting my caffeine going, getting my playing going. I might play a different loop, you know. Oops, I gotta delete that loop, that's why. There's probably going to be a bar of 7/8 there, because I think I just shaved off an eighth note. But we'll see. That's part of the challenge as well, you know. Just you play something in the loop and then see what happens. You know, let's go to play Toxicity Shadow of it. Isn't it System of a Down, right? Do I know? I don't think I know Toxicity. I know their hit though, right? And Aerial. I think those are the only two that I know from System of a Down, right? We got Kevin. Thank you. I love this bass as well. The Grooveline G106 by Ibanez, very short-lived. So yeah. Hey, that's cool, Gil. Your band just launched your Instagram. Yeah, go ahead. And Yes, I am playing chords on the bass, lots of chords. You know, something that is not anything new, chords on the bass. Chords have been around, obviously. And if you look down in the description box, there are links down below to, I have 2 bass chord courses, and you can get those. So the first one is called Bass Chords, the Ultimate Guide, where you can learn over 100 different chord voicings for the bass. And then I have a highlights course as well from a Bass Chords Workshop that I did last year. So all those links are down below, as well as, you know, other stuff that I have on offer. So yeah, check those out. And if you're just joining on, welcome to the live stream. Glad you could be here. We've already been talking about some nerdy bass gear and all that. What else have we been talking about? Oh, well, I mean, we're kind of just been getting started, so it's all good. Mark Walker, nice to see you. He's all the way in Tampa. Kund03 got a question. Mr. Ben, do you know what you're playing when you play it, or are you just going for a particular sound? I mean, it's a combination of both. You know, it's a combination of, like, yes, having the understanding of playing over changes, right? But then there's the, how do you take the information and actually create something from it, right? That's the whole thing. And yes, there are times where I am going for a particular sound. So say, for example, if I'm going to improvise over something like this, and I don't always just go for one solo sound, you know, in all of my solos that I play. Sure, there's going to be some go-to kind of tones. Obviously, the bridge pickup is a very popular one amongst bass players. It's because it's very usable. You can really make the instrument sing. You know, you can get a nice tone that, you know, can cut through, right? Especially if you're playing in that kind of lead, almost like horn player kind of vibe, right? But there are times where I will use the neck pickup, right? Because why not? I think it's a great sound for soloing as well, and it definitely reminds me of, like, also it taps into some of my influences of, like, jazz guitar players. I feel like George Benson, Joe Pass, Wes Montgomery, you know, people like that. It's also just something different, just to kind of break away from just always using the bridge pickup. And I'll use both pickups too. And something like that, you know, reminds me of, especially on a 6-string, reminds me of John Patitucci. You know, he loves, you know, his sound definitely he uses a lot of both pickups. I don't think I've really heard him. And this might be something to ask him. I haven't really heard him, when playing a solo, use like the bridge pickup or the neck pickup, just alone. It's definitely something, and it's just the sound that he, I guess, has always been going for. And there are certain, and again, there are bassists that I will reference and be thinking about and feeling that kind of vibe, in terms of like my pickup settings, right? That's always a really good way for me. So bridge pickup, the person that I always, the two people I always think of is Stanley Clarke and Jaco Pastorius, right? Stanley. And then obviously Jaco. Those will be the main kind of go-to cats for me, So, but yeah, in terms of like, am I, going for a particular sound? Yeah, I'm always going for particular sounds, right? And then utilizing effects and all that, that's a whole other palette too. So, and that changes from solo to solo. It's not a thing of like, okay, I'm going to use this. Sometimes it just happens on the spot a lot of the times, just depending on what's happening musically, right? I let the music dictate, how I'm going to use my gear, right? How I'm going to use sound. And that also goes for when playing bass as well. I like to change the pickup settings for, different things, right? So that's the cool thing about it. Hey, thank you so much, MTLK. I appreciate it. If you're new here, please like and subscribe. That way you get to know whenever I go live and whenever I post stuff here on my channel too. It also helps. It does help get my stuff in other people's YouTube feeds, because there's always new people who show up here, which is really cool. So if you are new here, welcome. I'm glad you could join us. This is just a good old bass nerd session where we just get to hang out. And so if you have any questions about bass playing, anything to do with the bass, all right, instruments, gear, like concepts, techniques, any type of like applications of certain concepts on the bass, anything to do with playing gigs or recording sessions, putting a band together, or anything to do with that involves bass playing, like just pop it down in the chat, And of course, the nerdier, the better, right? This is where we can really do that. It's Mark Walker saying you have to meld right into them. That's what the rest of us are. There's probably something from above that the chat's going off. I'm trying to keep up. Something about hogs and gators and turtles or something. I don't know. Because obviously Mark is in Tampa, so he's got all that stuff going on there. And he's a drummer, which is really cool. I always appreciate it when the non-bass playing friends come and hang out as well. This is open to all musicians, because that's the thing, we're all musicians and we have our certain tools that we choose to play, right, in order to express our artistic visions. And it just so happens to be that mine is the bass, right? And it's probably like that for a majority of you cats as well. And so, of course, my pleasure, Kun03. Say, very cool. Thanks for going into that. I've always been amazed at how talented musicians create. I'm about as creative as a chicken bone. Hey, well, with that attitude, that's not going to get you very far. You got to open it up. Everyone has something to offer in some way, right? Artistically and musically. And I think, you got to look at, what are your strengths? What are the things that that's, hey, I'm good at doing that. Even if it's something like really small, but it's something and it can actually foster into something else, right? That would be the first thing to look at. What are some of the things? Even if it's like, hey, I can make something out of a C major triad. Sure, good. All right. If you can make a C major, I can make a quarter note feel good. Even better. And simple things like that can actually lead to the bigger stuff, right? And I'm always amazed and talented how like my fellow musicians and artists create as well. I'm always learning things, and sometimes there are times where I'll be like, oh my god, I wouldn't have even thought of something like that. And there is the decision of like, okay, I can let that bother me, or I can be like, hey, you know what? That's what they're doing is really cool, really amazing, and we need that. And also what I do as well is also needed as well. And I appreciate the things that I do. Look, it took me a long time to kind of get to that point, and it's not bragging or anything. It's just, and I talked about this last week as well. It's just giving yourself some appreciation. There's nothing wrong with that, all right? There's nothing wrong with, and I do this, with my students in my coaching program. The very first session that we do, which is an onboarding session where, I just ask a bunch of questions just in order to get to know them and, get an idea of their musical background, and they even play for me a little bit as well. But I asked them, because obviously there's always the things of like, okay, what do you find challenging? What do you need to work on? Which we do get to that, but the thing that always throws a curveball that they're not expecting, what do you do really well on the instrument? I want you to really think about, what is it that you really appreciate that you do on the instrument? Because it's important for me, as a mentor and as a teacher, to understand what are your strengths as well, so I can use your strengths to help your weaknesses, right? And it's important for you to figure that out too, So before I go on a whole other thing about that, but that's something, you might think that like, oh, I can't create as much as such and such. Well, just look at what can you create, even if it's something really small. Focus on that. See what else can blossom from that, Don't compare yourself to others. Everyone has their thing that they can contribute, What's up, David? Nice to see you. And yes, thank you all for being here. It's really cool. It's always great when everyone is here. Play some blues. I could totally play some blues. Yeah, that would actually be great. I'll get to the blues shortly to see who else is here. Gros, see, I can't pronounce, so I apologize, Gros Maurice. What's your approach with compressors? I'm still trying to figure out what they really do. Good question, right? But aren't we all? Yes, I'll definitely get to that. But first, let's just get a blues going on here, you know? Push that a little late, but who cares? We're here now. And this will tie into your question as well, Matt Sudal. So, all right. Try and do 3 questions in one, because the caffeine is like surging through me. If you want to buy me another caffeine drink, you know, you can do so. It's there's a link for that for my Ko-fi coffee page. So, playing the blues. Yes, I can play the blues. And so I'm using the neck pickup here, you know? It's really important, you know, to also just know how to just play the blues. It really is. And to be able to, if you're gonna be learning all this, like transcribing all these like complicated jazz vocabulary and all that, do the same thing with like great blues players as well. Because that's the essence of, you know, a lot of the music that we play. And the great improvisers knew how to play that, knew how to play the blues, right? They knew how to really just do that on top of, you know, all the other nice jazz vocabulary that they could do. But they knew how to bring it back as well, which is really cool. And that's something that, I mean, I've always loved, you know, great blues players. And particularly, yes, on the guitar. You know, people like, you know, Buddy Guy, Stevie Ray Vaughan. You know, believe it or not, even someone like David Gilmour from Pink Floyd is a huge influence on me like that. I mean, because he is a great blues player, but in that kind of context, it works so well. B.B. King, of course, you know, just the whole art of like playing something that is very simplistic, just a few notes, but saying a lot, you know, and really speaking to you. So that's something to definitely just, you know, to if you're wanting like some some more kind of like phrases that speak, sometimes you just gotta go visit the blues. You gotta get that into your playing as well. It's really important. There's this whole thing of like some people say, oh well, you know, it's beneath me. Well, no, it's not. No. Or like a pentatonic scale has been nah, cut that out. That's not how it works. All right. It's not at all. You know, Coltrane played a lot of pentatonics. Like I have this many recordings where he's doing that, just playing, just going on like even like a whole solo, just pentatonics. And it's incredible. It's like, wow, didn't know you could do that much with just pentatonics. There's a time and place for it all. All right, it's not you only just do one thing, you know. But anyway, I could go on a rant about that. And so, okay, compressors. So for compressors, so for years I never used a compressor. A compressor was always used or put in post-production when I would do recording, or the sound engineer might do it on depending on what kind of venue or system that we were playing. But I never had one in my pedal board until maybe like 5 years ago. The reason I got a compressor, and I use an Aguilar TLC compressor, was because when I would kick in the envelope filter pedals, it would make the signal peak. And so I use it to kind of just tame, just to kind of cap it. But also at the same time, I have it very subtle so that it's not going to be so, like, affect the attack, right? I'm just only using it just to tame so I don't overclip something. Don't look at the compressor as an effect, although you could do that if you wanted to get some like some sort of saturation going on, or like something that just gets absolutely squeezed and then sometimes you might need to do that for God knows what. But I look at it as something as a signal processor, right? Where you're trying to just kind of, and it's a very fine thing. That's the thing. It definitely pays to look at a bunch of YouTube tutorials on just like how a compressor works, all the different knobs, you know, the ratio, the attack, the release, and all that, the gain reduction, you know, that kind of thing. It's really important. And I'll use compression on, you know, if I'm working on stuff in Logic and all that, just to kind of keep things a little more, to give it a little more life. I might need something to have like just a little more sustain or breath, and I'll kind of use it for that. Or to make things like a little tighter sounding. Compressors can be really good for that. If you're going to use a compressor, definitely on your pedal board, definitely use something that is very high quality. You know, don't use like a cheap thing, because it'll make all the difference. But you definitely want to go for something that is definitely really great quality. You know, studio quality. That's the thing. Some people don't use a compressor, and that's totally fine. You might not need to, depending on what you're playing, right? But that's all I could probably tell you on compressors. But I have one on right now, just so you know. And that's just, you know, playing over the internet and all that. I want to keep the level pretty consistent. So that's why I'll do that. What else we got going on here? All right, so yeah, and walking bass. Okay, so yes, Matsudal. So my approach to walking bass, and obviously I've got a walking bass line going on here, right? So the approach to walking bass on electric bass, you know, sound touch, you know, versus double bass. So, okay, at the end of the day, When I can, especially if I'm playing a jazz gig where we're just playing straight ahead tunes, I'm going to be playing on that thing because that is the sound, that's the essence, that is the feel. But there are times where, you know, maybe I can't always have the upright on the gig, or it's just a gig where, like, yeah, where we're just playing on electric. So yeah, I gotta make do with the electric. So in terms of like the sound and the feel, so you can hear that the notes are very boom, 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 very short, right? And that's because I was palm muting it, right? And then that's, you know, really to emulate that attack of the string, and also a bit of the air. You don't want to have, and this is the thing, and I've talked to a lot of drummers about this. Actually, I spent quite a bit of time, you know, and especially talking to jazz drummers about this. You know, cats who would, you know, on a gig prefer, obviously, to have the upright bass. And the thing that they told me that was interesting is that the way that the upright bass sounds, then when the electric bass sounds, it affects the time, because the electric bass is so direct, it's so pointed, and it just feels like there's no breathing room when they're playing their stuff. Whereas with the upright bass, it's the attack, but then the air that's behind it, that kind of thing, right? That's the thing that, like, makes everything sound the way that it sounds. And especially when it comes to playing with the ride cymbal, it's a whole thing. So that was something that, you know, for quite a while I was trying to, in a way, achieve that thing. Not necessarily trying to achieve the sound of an upright bass, but trying to achieve the sound or just the vibe of how can I make the drummer feel comfortable when I'm walking on the electric. And then I figured out, okay, well, what about something like an organ trio where there's no bass player and the organist is playing left-hand bass? So there's that organ bass where it's like there's not really much attack going on. There's, you know, a little bit, but it's a lot of like, you know, like very kind of almost subby. So I started paying attention to that. Like, okay, maybe what if I started emulating an organ bass? So what I was doing was I would put on the front pickup, I would turn my treble and my tone all the way down. I'd turn up the bass a bit, so I would get a little more sub content. And you know, and that was the thing that it started to make a difference. And, you know, I can actually just show you with, you know, a tune that is that is more straight ahead. Let's see. Let's do this. I'm going to play along to, I won't play the whole tune, but just to give you the example, I'm going to play along to Speak No Evil, Wayne Shorter, right? And I'm going to go between a few different sounds. I'm going to at first, I'm going to use the typical electric bass tone, right? Just the typical, something that you might use when you're just playing, you know, bass lines. And I'm going to play it in this manner. And it's going to sound weird because I've never actually played along with this, with in this configuration. It's always like upright bass. Anyway. I don't like it. So, yeah, I already hate it. So that right there is what most jazz drummers absolutely hate. They hate that. They've all told me, and trust me, these are I've talked to so many cats about this because I went on I did this for like a few years. People in LA, people in New York, and all that, and they say, yeah, that is like the worst thing. That's why like a lot of them actually just don't like playing with electric bass because of, that reason. So I was like, okay, so now let's try it more in this subby, like a little more depth, but not so much attack, not so much point, not so much directness, but try to get more of the air going. So let's try it again. So, sure, why it's still not an upright bass, obviously, but it's actually more manageable. It fits into the music much better. And when doing that actually the drummer was just like, yeah, what was that? What are you doing there? And I'm like, I'm just palm muting, and I'm just like making it a more warmer tone. Another thing that also worked was with that tone configuration, actually playing here as well. If you wanted to have there are times if you wanted to have more sustained notes. But for me, in this type of, this blue note era of jazz, it's definitely that classic sound where and you also need to have an understanding of because I'm an upright bass player, I've studied obviously I've studied a lot of upright bass players. Some of my favorite upright basses: Paul Chambers, Charles Mingus, Ray Brown, Christian McBride, Reggie Workman, the cats, right? So that, Ron Carter, that vocabulary is under my fingers. So if you don't play upright bass, that's cool, but it's definitely important if you're going to be playing straight ahead jazz that you get the vocabulary, you understand the essence and the sound of what these players are playing. So stuff like the, like the triplets and all that, the skip notes and all that, that you get that under your fingers. Just like, if you're gonna play jazz, drums, that you understand the stylings of, what Elvin Jones does, with the triplets and all that, the way he plays the ride cymbal, the bass drum, something that like Tony Williams does, playing, the hi-hats on the fours, playing like the groupings of fives on the ride cymbal, things like that, is really important. And also, as a bass player, we need to know, if you're playing straight ahead jazz, the vocabulary and the sound and the stylings of these different drummers, because that influences the way that we play, right? So that was something, right there. So in terms of playing straight ahead jazz, on the electric bass, not my first preference, but obviously I've had to do it so much, and there are some of you who don't play upright bass, but don't try to get the bass to sound like an electric bass when doing so. And that has been just, again, from that has been the feedback from some of the greatest jazz drummers in the world. And so if you want to make it palatable, for them and for everyone involved, definitely go that route for sure. Let me go back into the chat here. Because as I've been talking, yes, stay hydrated. I definitely am with my green tea. If you've been joining on, welcome. I appreciate you hanging out with me. We were just talking about utilizing the electric bass in jazz, playing walking bass lines, but particularly the sound and the feel. It's definitely a really important thing, and this has been my experience from talking and asking and just getting feedback from some of the greatest jazz drummers in the world, and also just finding out what is it that they don't like when playing with electric bass in straight ahead jazz. And so those are some of the things. Bathroom stall poet. Nice. How do you stop the sympathetic vibrations when playing 5+ strings, especially when slapping? So this is great. And I was just going over this with a student yesterday. So just sympathetic vibrations in general, which are really easy. It doesn't take much to get those rattling, right? You have to use both your hands to do the muting. So, and I'll get into for slapping and thumping shortly, but for when you're playing when you're just playing bass lines, first of all, if you're playing, I was doing this with my student yesterday. We were working on the bass line for Cantaloupe Island. And so when you go to that second note, so you play this first one, when you go to the second one, because what was going on, he was doing this. He was lifting off. He wasn't playing the note all the way through. And then so that E string was going to be ringing. I said, no, let's just go all the way through so that when you play the second note, what's happening is when you play that second note, which is just the fifth above, you play that note and your finger comes back and rests on the E string right here, right? And so in a way, that's muting that string right there. Now, what about something like the B string? Well, if you notice, my thumb is resting on the B string, right? But then also I have these two fingers here that also rest in this area. And when I play faster, or not faster, when I play higher, these fingers in the in this area where the B and the E strings are. But also my thumb is sitting in here as well, so that's also kind of muting stuff too. Also, when you're playing stuff, your fretting hand, you don't want to be lifting it, having it too far away from like the, doing this kind of thing. Because, that takes time for your fingers to actually, get back to the frets. And if you're playing something here, sometimes these other fingers that are not being played, they can actually dampen the other strings as well. That's the thing. So it's a combination of both hands doing the muting. And with 6 strings, it can be difficult trying to get everything to just not be ringing. But that's just the thing that we do. And this is not something that I've been consciously in terms of like, where my fingers are going for muting and all that. This is just something that naturally happened over time, to where I actually had to figure out, like, what am I actually doing to in order to like stop the lower strings from vibrating. My thumb is definitely a big part in that. Now, in terms of thumping, when doing that and trying to not get it to ring, this definitely relies on this hand a lot. So if I'm playing, something like this, where I'm doing this D to E, typical, E slap kind of thing. If you notice, these fingers here are dampening the lower strings. If I was to do it here, I got some ringing, right? Obviously, I want to play that, right? But that B string is going to start, rattling. And so when I do this, and to play that open E, then, just look at my hand. Now, what about something like this, where my hand is here? Well, when I do this, my forearm over here is actually muting the low B. So, and when I'm thumping and, popping, I'm not actually hitting it very hard. I'm not pulling. I'm not doing this kind of thing. Because you really don't need to. Like, I'm not pulling the strings very hard. Because, and again, you really don't need to. And I don't know if it's this bass, but I can do it on all my basses here and still get the same result. the strings are definitely going to respond. They're going to respond to how you attack it like that. So I hope that's helpful. So both hands come into play when you're when you're muting. I mean, if you listen real carefully, like I can hear, like even just now, just letting it free, I can hear the strings like vibrating. So yes, I'm trying to catch up on the chat here. Trying to catch up. I'm probably like 10, 15 minutes behind on the chat. Let's see, from what everyone's saying. Would you ever be up for reviewing different bassists' techniques and your thoughts on them? I have a bassist that is pretty unusual that I'd love to know your thoughts on their work. Look, so let me that's a great question. First of all, kind of great questions today. I need a cookie. I would. It would be something where it would be more of like a. I'm not. But it would be something more of like a reaction thing. And the reason is because I'm first of all I'm not trying to put down any at all. I'm never trying to put down anyone's kind of technique. The only time I'll give someone a critique on their technique is if you're studying with me, all right, I'll give you a critique on certain techniques if it is not, giving you the most out of your playing. Or if you are playing in a certain way that is going to lead to an injury. All right. That's when I'll do that. But I'm never going to put someone down because they have something that I think is kind of unusual or whatever. I'm always down to see how people play this instrument. And I'm always down to seeing how people evolve the technical ability of what can be done on this instrument. Because I mean, we're still figuring out even more ways to play this instrument. It's not a very old instrument. The bass guitar is 75 years old. And compare that to other instruments. That's really young, right? So I'm always down to see how we can get many different types of sounds. So, if there's a bassist that you'd love me to check out, and I'm always down to see, like how people are playing. Let me know who it is. Let us know who it is. I think everyone should be able to see who this is if they haven't heard of it. But let me know. I'm totally down. And yeah, I'm always down to check out bassist techniques. And sure, I'm always going to have, there's always going to be things that I'm going to like, and there's always going to be things that I'm not necessarily going to be into because it might not be what I'm into, but it doesn't take away from the artistry or the artistic value that someone is really putting into what they are doing. That I'll never take away from someone. Everyone has something to say, and you're not always going to be into what they're going to be into, and that's cool. There are a lot of bassists that my students are into that I'm not necessarily that cool, but I'm not going to discourage them from listening to them or checking out their stuff, because if it's something that inspires them to play the instrument, then I want them to have that, right? And the reason I'm like that is because when I was younger, there was a lot of bassists that I absolutely love, and then there'll be these older cats who would You say, "Ah, nah, where are you listening to? What? Ah, blah, 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 blah." Like, and it's just so discouraging, especially for a younger, up and coming musician, right? And I just think that that's not a great kind of environment to foster. Um, I have my cats that I'm into. Not other. There's people who are not into it. So what? You know, I'm gonna take what I want from that I love about the people I love, and you can do the same thing as well. How we got there, I have no idea. Can you do Primus stuff? I can do Primus stuff absolutely terribly, so no. Um, uh, the attack is fast versus a slower bloom is a resonant instrument. Oh, going back to the upright bass. See, I'm behind on the chat, man. I need to catch up here. Yeah, it's that's the thing. Yeah, the attack. We're talking about the getting that like playing walking bass straight ahead, jazz on the electric bass. Yeah, it needs to have this interesting. It's just about the air, you know. It's really the air and not so much of the sustain. It's the sustain that a lot of the jazz cats, like the jazz drummers, aren't really into. That really throws things off, you know. And that tune I was playing along to, "Speak No Evil," of course, that's classic Wayne Shorter Blue Note record from the album "Speak No Evil." That is 1964, I believe. So that's Ron Carter on bass, Elvin Jones is Herbie Hancock, Freddie Hubbard. I mean, it's a classic recording, one of the greatest jazz recordings in history. It really is. Let's see here. And let's see. JV Trumpet, how you doing? Double bass is my favorite instrument. The reason I started playing electric bass, and I fear I may never be able to afford one. Hey, you can absolutely get an upright bass that is like, $1,000. It might not be the greatest, but in order to to get you started, and if you have someone like a violin shop, set it up to where it plays comfortably. And if you're just using it just to get started, to get going, right? Then that is, and look, I'm not saying that everyone can afford $1,000. $1,000 is a lot of money, obviously, but compared to like a vintage instrument that people pay like literally a second mortgage for, I mean, it's a whole other thing. And there are places, and you might actually, if you are wanting to get into, I'll recommend this actually, because I did this and I've recommended this to my students, and this is the most obvious thing to do. If you, for many reasons, if you can't get an upright bass, to purchase, right? You can always hire one. You can rent one. There are a lot of violin string shops, in whatever area that you're in. You might have to maybe drive a few hours or whatever, depending on where you are locally. But in most major cities, a lot of these violin shops, they rent out, they'll hire out instruments, and for like a long period of time as well, because there are students who need an instrument for a semester or something at school. They can so they can hire that out. So that would be worth investigating if you are trying to learn upright bass. Just rent one. That's definitely a really great solution. I did that, with my very first upright bass. When I started in college, I was actually the shop that I got it from in Pasadena, called Fantastic Musical Instruments. He has a rent to own program. Or if you just want to rent it, you can do that. But I told him that eventually I'd like to have my own. He said, well, why don't you just pay the rental price, and that will pay, that will go towards what the total price of this bass is. And, once you've paid it off. So that's what he did with me. And it was really great. So it's worth investigating. It really is. And also, like, a lot of these violin string instrument shops, a lot of them are mom and pop establishments as well, like real brick and mortar places. So, you'd be supporting a local business as well. All right. They have things like that. So worth investigating. Yeah. How do I feel about using the foam at the bridge and fret wraps to mute the tone? I mean, sure. I think the foam, I don't use fret wraps. I do have a fret wrap, but I only use it for show. But I don't have any need to use it on the bass at all. Foam, I haven't needed to use foam on the bass to play anything because I palm mute things. That's why. I'm not opposed to foam. If you want to use foam underneath the strings, on your bass to get that kind of thing, yeah, go ahead. So, but this whole thing just getting that muted sound. I just use my palm for that. It's something that I've been doing for quite a while. So yeah, it's all good. All right, I think I'm catching up here. Mark saying I retracted all. I guess I missed all that. Of course, yeah, bathroom stall poet. At first I was like, yes, I know that part, but then you kept going and covered the rest. Nice. So I'm glad that was helpful to you. Raphael, nice to see you. Hope you're doing well. Gil is asking me, can you play Power by Marcus Miller on the 6? Yeah, what's funny, I think I even, the first time I learned that tune was even on a 6-string, my first 6-string. And then Raphael's like, could you play it in 7/8? Oh, let's see. And yes, I don't know Christian Galvez personally, but I know who he is, and absolute monster of a player, like ridiculous. All right, Power by Marcus Miller on a 6-string and in 7/8. Let's have a go. Let's see what this is. Okay. Let's do it. Take it slower. You know what I'm gonna do? Sloppy. I haven't played this since I was like, I haven't played Power since I was like 14, 15 or whatever. So trying to do it on the 6-string and in 7/8. That's a cool challenge though. But how do I figure? So some of you are probably going, oh, how do you do it in 7? Well, I have a lot of experience playing in 7/8 for all kinds of stuff, right? But it's really that. So you really have to alter like the melody to fit, whether it's, you know, taking out a note or something, or playing it um, rhythmically in a different way to be able to fit. And you can do this with any melody, really. When you're playing odd time signatures, and a great way to get into this is just taking a jazz standard, right? So you know, something like All the Things You Are, where, you know, usually the melody is dun, bum, ba-dun, dun, 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 bum, right? It's pretty even, but obviously when putting it in 7/8, you get the point. So that's the thing, is you gotta just, and the way that you can do it is just like set up a loop. Oh, now he's telling me it's a joke, you know. Like, why do I have to go through all that? No, just kidding. Hey, this could be a good, that's the thing. A joke can be a great learning experience, you know, or you could just totally just crash and burn, you know. But hey, I definitely see it as a challenge, for sure. Why not, right? It definitely helps to, you know, feel what that clave is, right? And, you know, when you can sing it and internalize, you know, where that 7/8 really feels and where it lies, then that's something that is definitely going to be, you know, helpful, because you'll understand, like, you know, how do you play that, right? To get proficient with odd time signatures, it just takes time to just get familiar with how to play. What do the different meters sound like? So playing in 7s, playing in 5s, playing even you know, something like 3 and 6, which, you know, obviously is going to be the same kind of thing. But 9s, 11s, it's just actually spending time doing that, right? And so taking a tune that, you know, I you know, have spent a lot of time on, you know, once upon a time, you know, something like I was just doing, Marcus Miller's tune Power, I was able to, in some way, be able to put that into 7/8. And most, you know, majority of people, you know, who are really good with odd time signatures can do that for any kind of tune. Say, for example, you take a Stevie Wonder tune, Isn't She Lovely, which is like a 12/8 shuffle. So 12/8. Now, what if you were to take one of those eighth notes off? It would be 11/8, right? So how do we play an 11/8 shuffle? Well, a good way to look at it is, well, just play the shuffle as usual, but then just, you know, what does it sound like when you just shave off that one? So, dun, dun, dun. So let's do this. So one two one two three one two three one two three one two one two three one two three. Because remember, 12/8 is 4 groups of triplets essentially, right? So that last group is only going to have 2 notes in there, right? 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2. But obviously we're not going to count 1 2 3 1 2 3 because that's, even thinking that, it's just so much of a mouthful and so exhausting, right? So I've already lost where the count is. So, but you know, when we think of 12/8, we just think of 4, right? It's like a swung feel. So you can do the same thing here, right? 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4. Get the idea. So like things like that where sure it takes out the original feel. Just that 1/8 note makes all the difference, right? But it's just a cool thing to be able to, you know, real nerdy kind of thing to be able to figure out. Oh, okay, yeah. And you might not play that. I probably wouldn't play that on a gig because it's just too weird. But just knowing that, like, hey, that's what it sounds like and that's what can be done. It's just a cool thing to help you understand how to play these kinds of things, right? So yeah. Yes, a good setup and lighter touched help you. Yeah, absolutely. And it's just, yeah, it's not necessarily like playing like really light like this, like forcing yourself to play light. A lot of times, you know, when people say, you know, playing with a lighter touch means, because a lot of times when we play bass or when we start out playing bass, you know, we dig in like harder than that we need to, especially on the upright bass as well. But for something like this, it's just like all it is just back away from what you're doing in terms of the amount of attack. Like play at a balanced, weighted, where it just naturally to where you can get even notes, right? And the same thing goes for thumping as well. You know, like that's that's the thing. The bass, you get a better sound when you don't like try to pull all of the strings so hard. You know, that's how to. And yes, you will also avoid injury as well, and that's an important thing, right? How you doing, Daniel? Nice to see you. I have not done a video on my pedal board. Hey, eventually I can do that. Thank you for the suggestion. Um, I know that's something that people are always curious about. Oh, what's on your pedal board? Um, and look, for some it might not be the most exciting pedal board, but for me it's definitely a great functional. First of all, it's not on a board; they're pretty much just sitting on the ground. Um, that's the thing. But the functionality of each pedal is very unique and something that I've done have spent some time kind of just searching for over the years and have collected that have been a big part of my sound. And I'm pretty happy with what I have. Like there's no kind of thing of like, man, if there was anything that I would want to change, it'd probably be the compressor. I'd actually like to check out that new Aguilar compressor that just came out. Has anyone checked that out as yet? The new one they just launched at the beginning of the year, along with their new octave pedal as well, that has the ability to do the octave below and the octave above as well. I'm really keen to check that out. That would be actually something that I'd be down to kind of mess around with, So, hey Mario, thank you so much. Glad you could be here. I'm always here to, share, which is something I really enjoy doing. And just real quick before I carry on here, yeah, if you haven't, please like and subscribe to my channel. That way you can know whenever I go live, and also just whenever I post content, anything like that. And down in the description box are all my links to my bass resources. So courses, you want to take a lesson with me, just like a one-off lesson, you can do so. Or if you want more than that, you want to be in my one-on-one bass coaching and mentoring program, which is one of my proudest things that I have here at Bass with Benjamin. I'm proud of everything that I do here, but definitely I think the coaching program I'm really proud of, because I'm really proud of my students who are in it. Everyone is at a different level and has a different goal, and it's an honor to work with just amazing musicians who are just serious about the bass. And I'm just it's a great thing to be a part of that journey and to encourage them. So if you'd like to know more information about that, that's down below, all the links to everything. So definitely check all that out. Whatever I can do to help you in your bass journey, this is why I have Bass with Benjamin. And of course, my name is Benjamin, if you don't know. And I play the bass. So check all that out. Bathroom stall power. As much as I like the likes of Flea and Geddy Lee, I suspect they cause RSIs for a generation of bass players. Ooh, yeah. There's I mean, look, I wouldn't just put the blame on them, but in terms of this is why it's like you just gotta and you gotta watch. Let me say this: you have to. I wouldn't say it was just them. It's also people that you hear all these things from all kinds of people saying, like the sound is when you like really dig in, or you play with super high action. That's when the sound, or you're not playing bass if you don't. Like, get out of here. First of all. If you pick up an instrument, a bass guitar, and you play it, and you get a sound of it, hey, you're playing the instrument. You're playing a bass. You don't need to that's ridiculous. Do you want to play? And then you need to ask yourself, do I want to play the instrument for as long as I can, as long as I live? then yes, that requires you to take good care and to actually have decent technique and find out what and not be doing stuff that is going to make you uncomfortable. If you're constantly shredding up your fingers from gigs, you're doing something wrong. If you are constantly having to ice your elbows after gigs and all that, you are doing something wrong. All right, your instrument is not working out, or is not set up to accommodate for you. And look, I also want to be conscious of people, who do have disabilities as well, right? And who do need to obviously um, have some sort of care to do that. But I'm talking about, I'm kind of making a generalization, right? Um, if you are constantly injuring yourself from playing the instrument, then there is something that you are doing that is not right. You're doing a bad habit, and you're actually going to do more damage than good. Something that, later on is going to be to a point where you might not actually be able to play the instrument. And I've seen this before with people, um, like literally lose their careers because of bad habits. So that's the thing. I do, and look, I'm gonna be honest with you guys. Um, I I love Flea. I think he has some of the greatest and most influential bass lines in music history. He's a part of that, right? I do cringe and feel kind of like when I do see him play. Not because I think it's terrible, it's not that at all. I think he's playing some cool stuff. I cringe because it looks so uncomfortable and I just feel it like, ugh, you know? It's the one that really got me was there was that video of him in a hotel room where he's playing his Fender jazz bass and he's playing Teen Town. And he doesn't have the bass plugged in. And it's like, like it's and I'm it all to me it's almost the equivalent of like nails on a chalkboard kind of thing, just because it just looks so uncomfortable and I can feel the pain. I don't know what if he's feeling any pain or if that's like for him that just feels natural, but like just the thought of me trying to actually do it like that, it just is it just is horrendous. So that's the thing. I am definitely someone who is trying to make things very ergonomical, and I want the economy of motion in my playing to be very balanced and even. And this is something I help my students with as well. Um, because yes, I want them to be able to play for a long time and to be able to play that they want to play and have to avoid any injuries whatsoever. Um, and you'll hear people saying, you got to have high action, you got to have low action. Well, you got to have the action on your instrument and the attack to where it works for you, to where you are comfortable. You're not straining anything. You're not hurting. It's not a thing where, like, oh, yeah, I can deal with it. No. Don't settle. Get the get the instrument set up to what works for you. Even if you have to be there with the luthier, because they're gonna do whatever generalized setup that they're gonna do that they do on every instrument. Which it doesn't always work for everyone, but if you're paying them money to set up your instruments and make sure that you play it before taking it back home and be like, well, this here, it still feels a little, it feels a little high or whatever, and they'll either be like, okay, yeah, let's see what we can do, or some of them be like, really, you know, like you just have to. But at the end of the day, it's like you're the one who has to play it. So they can complain all they want, you know, but it's a good luthier or person who does setups on guitars will actually be like, no, okay, yeah, let's get it playing the way that you need it to, you know? So that's my whole little rant about that. How's that new Ibanez mode bass? Hey, let's plug it in. It's fantastic. I love it. I absolutely love it. Let's see. Oh my God, Raphael's going, can you play Falling Grace by Swallow? So that's Steve Swallow in chords with melody on top like Christian Galvez style. Challenge. All right, so that's something I'm going to have to work on, all right? Because first of all, I haven't worked on Falling Grace in a very long time, and I need to do that, and I don't want to take up all the time here by figuring that out. So let me work on that, all right? And next live stream, I'll come back with it, all right? And also just to see what I'm getting myself into. Daniel's asking, do you have a looper pedal recommendation? Not really, just because that's not something that I've kind of, I just have the one I use is a Boss RC30, but I think, you know, what are you going to use the looping for is the first question. Like, are you going to be using it part of your gig where you do like all kinds of loops and all that? Do you need something that's really simple, or do you need something that's sophisticated to where you need to use like Ableton Live or something? I think, you know, getting a loop pedal that is good, has good high quality sound, you know, is easy to use. Personally, I like to have a loop pedal that has two switches that literally is for stop and, you know, start or record, right? I tried the TC Electronic one, that very simple one, which was just one pedal and you have to like double tap it, and I couldn't do it because when I'm playing in time, I can't just go da. So I sold it and I was like, no, let me get this one here, the Boss RC30, and I literally only use it when I'm doing these live streams or if I'm teaching as well. So if I'm laying down some sort of loop, but it's not something where I'm going to be, you know, in like, I've used it in performances before, but yeah, I'm not someone who's going to be doing like super looping, you know, someone like, you know, Steve Lawson or whatever, you know, like that's, you know, that's not me. But yeah, this thing is really cool. And maybe I'll play some music. And yes, I'll figure out Falling Grace for next time. And yes, this is a beautiful upright bass I have in the back. And does it sound good? It sounds amazing. I love it. And what I could do, because, you know, I do need to kind of just get my just my chops up. Maybe at the end I can play a few tunes on the upright. You know, if people are down for that, I would just need to set up another microphone, because I'm not going to do DI'd upright bass, because DI'd upright bass is just an absolutely horrendous sound. If you're going to play an acoustic instrument, you want to get the acoustic qualities of it, right? So yeah, how about we do that? I'm going to play a few things on the mode here, because this is an incredible instrument. It has some nice growl and snappiness. And then I'll pull out the upright bass and do some as well. Because bass playing is not just on electric bass; it's also on upright bass. And I do encourage you, to if you can and when you can, to also dabble in upright bass as well. And if you want to be a working professional, it definitely is, being proficient on both is really important. You play both instruments, you can get a lot more work. And that is an absolute fact. That has been the case for my career. When people, and it's always a thing, if I've been doing gigs on electric and then they've, really enjoyed what I've been doing, they ask, do you play upright as well? I'm like, yeah, absolutely. And sometimes they'll be like, okay, great, cool. Sometimes they'll be like, can you send me some stuff of you playing upright? I'm like, no problem at all. Send them, be like, all right, cool. All right, we're good. So it's definitely worth it. It's such an incredible instrument. It's such a beautiful instrument, and it just it just unlocks a whole other kind of world. It's still a bass instrument. It still serves as a bass role, but it's a totally different instrument entirely. So I'll play a little upright at the end. Maybe we can revisit "Speak No Evil" or some other tunes. We'll see. Bathroom stall poet. How much do you use your P bass? I assume you're obligated to own one as a pro. Yeah, I use it. I do. I have two P basses. The one that is over there, that's a PJ bass, and that one has round wounds. I do have another one that is just a P bass, and that has flat wounds on it. It's to serve that purpose of that sound. And I'll use it when I need to. I don't play it all the time, but I have it, and when I need to use that sound, and also when I'm feeling inspired to do so as well. It's probably an instrument that I've used more on sessions than live playing. I've used it on a few live gigs, and it sounds fantastic. But, when I'd be playing live, I'd always have like my, groove line, my groove line 6-string bass for everything, because that's something that would, just be used. It would just be the bass I'd carry everywhere with me. So that's how it is. And, I've never had a hard time by anyone saying, oh, you need to get a P bass. It wasn't, no one has ever told me that. I've heard that about other things, but that's never been the case. I got a P bass because I wanted one. And it's an Ibanez P bass, right? It's an Ibanez 1974. It's an exact copy of a Fender, right? So yeah. What are my thoughts on soap bars? So soap bar pickups. I mean, it's a particular sound. I would say it's probably look, I dig the sound. It's not necessarily the sound that I'm going for. I think because maybe it's a wider magnetic field. So it's a wider area of the string that it's picking up. I definitely love the kind of single coil kind of vibe, right? Where it's more focused on a particular area of the string. That's my favorite, and that's just my thing. But although I have played some great instruments that have soap bars, but in terms of, that kind of growl and that punch that I'm going for, it's definitely the single coil. It's definitely the single coil sound that I'm going for, So, yeah. But soap bars, if that's your thing, yeah, no, that's cool. There's some great instruments that use soap bars and all that. So, yeah. I don't have any basses that have soap bars. They're all more single coil or split coil, so that's that. Raphael has played double bass all his life. Nice, that's cool. Mario Cortez is asking, how do you approach when the band asks you for a random bass solo? I'll be like, okay, cool, let's do it. So yeah, that's how I approach it. And look, not everyone is like that, and it's totally fine. Not every bassist is a soloist, and that's totally cool as well. You don't have to solo on everything. If you don't want to have a solo, you don't have to, right? There are musicians who don't like to solo, and that could be for many reasons, right? Um, the late great drummer Jeff Porcaro, who was one of the absolute greatest drummers in history, didn't like to take drum solos, from what he says. Didn't do it, but we all know that he could totally do it. We could totally see that, he has the facility and the chops and the language and the vocabulary to definitely do it. He just didn't want to, because his thing was, he was all about just wanting to play good time. That was his vibe, which is cool, man. But if someone asked me to play a bass solo on a tune, be like, sure. But also, I'll also consider, like, okay, is this maybe the most appropriate tune to maybe have a bass solo, or does it need to? And that could be just me as I've gotten older and matured, making better musical decisions about things. You know what I mean? So, but yeah, I'm totally cool. With that. Does it annoy you that you share the name with the Soundgarden guy? It doesn't annoy me. I think it's funny, actually. And there's a reason why I go as Benjamin J. Shepherd. So to avoid that confusion instead of just Ben Shepherd. I think the only thing that would annoy me about that is the fact that his name is not Benjamin. His name is Hunter Benedict Shepherd. So his name is not even like, it's not even, it's his middle name. It's a Benedict. It's not even a Benjamin, Hunter Shepherd. Here, Hunter Shepherd on bass. But yeah, that was, and I do get it hasn't happened in quite a while, but there was a period of time where I did get the occasional email or message from from a fan or whatever, saying, "Oh, I love you, your bass playing a song," and I'd have to break it to them. Hey, well, it's not the guy that you're looking for to disappoint you, And it would either go one or two ways. It'd be like, oh yeah, or be like, oh well, that's pretty fun, but I checked out your stuff anyway, and it's like, wow, So it would be like that. But yeah, there's a reason I go as Benjamin J. Shepherd, and also I like to use my not just Ben. Sure, my family and friends they call me Ben, but I like to use my name that I was given. Benjamin. It's like, I have it. Let's use it, and I like it. And with my middle initial, so there you go. He stole your name. That's right. But I mean, he's way older than me too, so there's also that. It's actually funny. There was one time I went to Tom Morello's house, for just to jam, and I got invited by this rapper named Rory. And I met him the day before. I was doing a session for Chance the Rapper on for Coloring Book, and Rory was sitting next to me because he was gonna record his part, and he really liked what I was playing. He's like, hey man, well I'm going to Tom Morello's house tomorrow, and we're gonna jam. You want to join? I was like, yeah man, totally. yeah, I'm down. I love Tom's playing. I love Rage Against the Machine. Rage Against the Machine. So yeah, absolutely. So I got there, and I introduced him, and I'm like, well, my name is actually Ben Shepherd. He's like, oh wait, no way, man. He's like, I was like, yeah, that's I go as Benjamin, but it's Ben Shepherd. He's like, what? So that was really cool, and he was an absolute beast. He had all the stuff there. It was really cool, just doing the wee wee wee. So that was a lot of fun, and it was recorded too. But I never got a copy of the recording. It's at his house, So, and we just made stuff up on the spot. We just jammed, just a real experimental kind of stuff with a bunch of other musicians. So it was really fun. So there's a recording out there of our jam sessions, and who knows, there might be like the lost recordings in like 50 years time or something that gets released. I don't know, we'll see. See what happens, right? So yeah, that's my story about Ben Shepherd, my name. And also there was another thing, like what if I was to fill in for Ben Shepherd in Soundgarden. What if that was to be a thing? So like they'll be announcing me like at the gig, and so tonight, filling in for Ben Shepherd on the bass is Ben Shepherd. Just to cause like confusion and all that. That'd be like what? That would just be so random, But anyway. Hey, Evan, I'll tell you what. If you send the link, I won't check it out now, but I'm down to see, where what it is. Just because I'm almost out of time here, and there's some things I'm gonna play through, but maybe just put the link down here, and everyone, if you want people to check out your music, I think, just put the link, and people, can have a look. All right, but thanks for jumping on and subbing. I appreciate it. What's my favorite Jameson bass line? Let's see, my favorite James Jameson bass line. Let's see. Look, I always bring it back to What's Going On. That's a really good one. Darling Dear is another one, which is just incredible. Probably, I would say it's either those two. What's Going On. Although I do like Ain't No Mountain High Enough. Just the... like... it's beautiful. It's just, it's a standard. It's foundational bass playing. It's really what has set the standard of how we play this instrument in so many genres. It really is. I've got the mode bass here. I'm going to play some music here. I'm actually going to play a tune here by George Duke and Billy Cobham, the band that they had called Cobham Duke. And this had my mentor and bass teacher in the band. This was in the 70s, Alfonso Johnson. And, of course, a young John Schofield on guitar as well. So I'm going to play this tune of theirs called Ivory Tattoo. So we'll have a lot of fun. That's bad. There's a lot going on there, but it's such a fun tune. Ivory Tattoo. And Alfonso just plays some ridiculous stuff on there. He's one of the most influential bassists in history as well, in terms of like demonstrating, just like with Stanley and Jaco and those cats, demonstrating a lot of like fluidity on the instrument across the board, which is really cool. And now I'm going to take it to the 80s. Get my octave and my octave and envelope, because I'm going to be playing a synth bass line that was originally played by an artist and producer named Kashif. Super talented. So I'm going to play this tune. My wife is going to appreciate this song because this is a classic. Some of you might know this. That's a badass tune. So, first of all, I don't have that MXR synth pedal. I'd love that. That would be something I'd love to check out. But for right now, I use just the EBS octave and EVS bass envelope. To get this sound. I'd play the full thing of the tune, but it goes on for like another 3 minutes. An incredible tune, but I'd mentioned that I'll play a bit of upright as well, because there were some of you who were totally keen on that, and I want to make sure that to kind of cover all my bases. No pun intended. So I'm gonna quickly just plug in another microphone for this, and get the upright going because it's just so cool. But I appreciate everyone hanging out. Again, don't forget to like and subscribe. Description box, all the links down there to my resources here at Bass with Benjamin. Yeah, right. It's a great tune. Love Comes Down. That's Evelyn Champagne King. That's a classic dance floor classic. Bathroom Stopper. Does the slight delay of the tracking pedal mess with your sense of time? No, it's pretty. It's pretty instant. That's why, I mean, it's a great pedal. That's why it's my favorite, because it's it has great tracking. There's no, I don't feel a delay in it. I feel that it's right there with me. That's EBS makes some really great stuff. I'm gonna hook up this microphone real quick, get some upright going. Well, I've got about 15 minutes left here. And get the microphone. Just a... It's just a, what is this? An Audio Technica 80-2020. I just use this for recording. For playing live, I'll use something else. Maybe a DPA or an RE20 or just any large diaphragm microphone, right? So now I'm just going to turn the volume down on this so I don't blow any of your speakers and your ears. And of course, cables. Where is that stuck? All right. There we go. All right. Phantom power. There we go. Now let's readjust the camera. All right. I think that'll work. Get some volume here. Nice. And what I'm going to do actually, and this is what I recommend. Especially when playing upright bass, or even just bass in general, it's great to keep your hands moisturized, so for, a good lotion that, doesn't make things too, slippery. I also use, for upright bass, I like to use shea butter, which is, for my hands works really well. Because sometimes your hands can get like all clammy and all that, and it doesn't feel great, and that will affect, how you play. But when you get it like this, then did I think it cut off for a second there. I think it cut off for a second, the connection. Well, this is the last day of Mercury retrograde, isn't it? So gonna get some interesting things. Anyway, Um, let's play some jazz, man. Where's all my stuff? All right, let's go back to Wayne Shorter. Is there sound now? Can everyone hear everything? Actually, I'm going to play a Christian McBride tune from his first record. I love this tune, The Shade of the Cedar Tree. No, I'm about to play it now. Yeah. Mercury! Yeah, like there's no backing. That's a tune I haven't played in a long time. And I actually had transcribed, when I was 16, I transcribed Christian McBride's solo on that. So I was playing it to the best of my knowledge and ability. What I might do, the action is feeling kind of low on this, so I'm going to raise it up. And it's just as simple as, you know, I've got adjuster wheels on here, just turning them and adjusting the action. So something like that. And my action on the upright bass, it varies. It definitely varies from just how I'm feeling physically. Sometimes I might need a little lower. Sometimes I need to have it a little higher. So just right now, obviously, that was the case. How about I play a tune that is not actually played on upright bass, but I'll play it on upright bass. Let's see. Here we go. I'll play this one. Just for fun. Just to... I played this the week, but just for fun on upright bass. Just to... as a bit of a challenge, because this would actually be kind of hard on here. I think you all would know this one. This is going to be funny.
When I see
that's a workout. Oh, I am in no shape to play that on upright. That's a good one though. It's like taking tunes that you wouldn't typically play on upright and playing it on upright. What's another one? How about this one? Electric Band, King Cockroach. Let's see what happens. I've never played that on upright. That's also a mission too. Anyway, I think that's it for me for today. Again, thank you so much, everyone, for hanging out. I really appreciate it. Really great to see you all. And yeah, it's gotta feel so easy going from electric to upright. Well, I mean, or going to electric from upright. Yeah, sometimes it can be like that. It's also just going from, you know, the Mason Johnstone. What's up, bro? That's the thing. Going from both of the instruments, it can be like that. Sometimes not, just because like technique wise everything's different. But I would say it's, if I've been playing my P bass and then going to like my 6 strings, then it definitely I'll feel that. But just because this is so. That's the thing about it. There's 2 different instruments. Anyway, folks, thank you so much for hanging out. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Links are down below in the description box. If you'd like to help support the channel, my Ko-Fi page link is down below there, as well as you can do that here in the chat too, if you feel ever so inclined to do so. But I appreciate you hanging out. Thank you so much for the great chats and fun and nerdiness that we've had today. Yeah, whatever I can do to help you in your bass journey, please reach out to me. You can do so with the links down below. Courses, you want to take a lesson with me or join my bass coaching program, that's all down there. But wherever you are in the world, take care. Be safe, enjoy playing music, having fun, finding joy in what you do, and I'll see you next time. All right? All right, folks. See you next time. Take care.